What if I told you the biggest hit in the history of Indian television did something that should have ended it overnight? It killed off its own male lead after years of building him up as the ultimate moral anchor, throwing the entire story into a 20-year time jump. And instead of losing viewers, the ratings went completely through the roof. Today, we're breaking down exactly how Kahaani Ghar Ghar Kii pulled off the riskiest pivot in soap opera history, and why almost nobody talks about how insane that decision actually was. Here's something every drama fan has felt at least once. You get attached to a show, you get attached to a character, and then the actor leaves, or the writers kill them off, or the storyline just moves on without them. And the show never quite feels the same again. It happens constantly. A lead exits, a replacement gets recast, and something invisible breaks. Fans stop watching, not because the writing got worse, but because the emotional center of the show is just gone. You can feel the hole where that character used to be, even if nobody on screen acknowledges it. Now imagine you're a writer's room in the early 2000s, and you've built your entire show around one couple, Parvati and Om Agarwal, as the picture-perfect ideal of the joint family. Om isn't a side character. He's half of the reason people tune in every single night. And then you decide, we're going to kill him. By every rule of television, that's a death sentence for the show. You've just removed the exact thing people are watching for. So why did it work? Why did people keep watching? And why do people still talk about this storyline over 20 years later? Here's the insight that most people miss when they talk about this show. Kahaani Ghar Ghar Kii didn't try to replace Om. And it didn't try to move on from him either. It did something much smarter. It kept him narratively present even after his death, so the audience never actually had to let go. That's the real trick behind why killing off a beloved character can work instead of tanking a show. You don't erase the hole they left. You build the next chapter of the story around that hole, so the audience's grief becomes part of the plot instead of a reason to leave. Once you see that, you start noticing it everywhere in long-running dramas. Let's break down exactly how this show executed it, because there are 5 specific decisions here that any writer, or any of us just trying to understand why some shows survive tragedy and others don't, can actually learn from. 1. The setup made the loss actually hurt. Before Om ever dies, the show spends real time establishing the Agarwal household, a Marwadi joint family across 3 generations, and positioning Om and Parvati as the ideal couple everyone else in the family and the audience is rooting for. That's not filler. That's the writers making sure that when the loss comes, it lands on something the audience has actually built a relationship with. A shocking death without that foundation is just shock. This one was earned. 2. The memory of the loss became the main character. Instead of moving past Om's death, the writers allowed his absence to completely rewrite the DNA of the show. Parvati didn't just mourn. Her entire identity shattered. When the show jumped forward 2 decades, the gentle, traditional daughter-in-law was gone. In her place came Jhanki Devi, a fierce, altered alter ego out for absolute justice. The audience wasn't asked to accept a void where Om used to be. We 3. The murder mystery gave the plot an engine, not just a moment. Om doesn't just pass away. His death is a calculated crime. This turns his exit into a slow-burn whodunit that drove the narrative for months. A tragic heart attack or accident only buys a writer's room one emotional episode. A murder mystery, however, demands justice. Viewers weren't just sad, they were actively looking for clues alongside Parvati, turning collective grief into sustained, competitive watch time. 4. Comic relief acted as a pressure valve. A show can't run on grief alone for years without exhausting its audience. This is where a character like Kamal, played for comic relief, becomes structurally important. Not because the humor is separate from the drama, but because it gives viewers permission to breathe between heavy beats. If you've ever noticed a long-running drama that feels emotionally exhausting to watch, it's usually missing this pressure valve entirely. 5. 2 different ways to play the lookalike card. Compare this to Kkavyanjali, a show we're covering later this month, which faced a very similar crisis when they killed off their title lead character, Kavya. But they solved it completely differently. While Kaahani had the surviving partner transform into a lookalike avatar to get revenge, Kkavyanjali brought in a literal lookalike clone of the dead character, a conman named Soham, to shake up the family dynamic. Same core problem. An actor is leaving or a character must die. 2 completely opposite uses of the classic soap opera lookalike trope. If breakdowns like this are your thing, where we're not just recapping a drama but actually taking apart why it worked, that's exactly what this channel is for. I'm going through a full list of classic and current dramas this month, comparing how different shows across different countries solve the exact same storytelling problems. So if you want to actually understand why your favorite shows hit the way they do, this is the place for that. Hit subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one, because next up is exactly the comparison I just mentioned. Kkavyanjali and its very different take on losing a lead character. I've also got a video coming up comparing how Pakistani and Turkish dramas handle the same tragic love formula completely differently. So if that sounds interesting, that one's coming soon too. So here's the question I want you to actually answer in the comments. Which method do you think works better? Keeping a dead character present through spirit or memory, like this show did, or bringing in a lookalike to solve their own murder, like we're about to see in Kkavyanjali. I'm covering that exact comparison in the next video. And I'm genuinely curious which side most of you land on before you've even seen it. Drop your answer below. I read every single one